So, welcome to our latest episode. I think we were at 20 or 21 of our Thought Leader Conversations. As those of you who have joined before know, what we like to do here is to the Center for Mentoring Excellence's mentoring community and beyond, share conversations with thought leaders on adjacent topics. There's so much that mentoring touches, and there's so much that touches mentoring. I'm so excited to talk to our guest today, Jason VanDevere, about goal setting, because as we've said over and over and over again at Center for Mentoring Excellence, learning is the purpose, the process, and the product of mentoring, and key to learning is setting goals. So I know our guest today is really going to help us think through that. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to Jason VanDevere. As I said, I met Jason because I used his planner. Then I tuned it into his podcast, and I learn a lot every day, and I benefit every day from using his Goal Crazy Planner. He is a successful entrepreneur, a real estate investor, a speaker, and a podcast host. He's the founder of Goal Crazy Limited, which offers courses, coaching, and programs to help people pursue their dreams. He's recognized for the Goal Crazy Planner, which is used by thousands to set and achieve personal goals. Just as a plug, I have been a planner junkie my whole life, and I've stopped looking since I found the Goal Crazy Planner. So it's really, really, really terrific. Jason shares his insights as a speaker and host of the Goal Crazy podcast, and lives with his wife and 3 children, and is really passionate about inspiring others to pursue their dreams, even their crazy ones. So welcome, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent. Me too. So let's just kind of set the foundation. I'd love to understand what inspired you to create the Goal Crazy Planner, and how did your own journey with goal setting shape its development?
Yeah. So similar to you, it sounds like I had tried tons of different planners out there, and I'd go on Amazon, search for these goal planners, and I'd order them. And I feel like they always had these high expectations of what they could help me with, and I was always let down. And I'd read a lot of self-help books. My dad had us set goals from a really young age with him. We'd make these dream lists around the dinner table. We'd set goals around the dinner table. Kind of a weird family thing to do, but I wanted to find a planner that put lots of the principles I was learning in a planner, and I couldn't find one. And it had a big enough passion in me to do it that I left my job, and I spent over 7 months just interviewing successful people. And I'm blessed that my dad, he's a successful entrepreneur in our city, so I could tap into his network of lots of business owners and figure out how they were setting their goals, accomplishing their goals. And then I took that information, I put it in the planner. I ended up hosting a bunch of focus groups where people would try out the design until we got something that worked. And then I launched the Goal Crazy Planner based off of that process. Yeah.
Well, I am sure you learned a ton about setting goals as a result of that. And that's really where I want to go today. Let's talk about why do goals matter so much, not just in personal development, but in relationships like mentoring.
Yeah, you need a target to aim for. I think I had one of my mentors early on when I was getting started. He told me, Jason, what if I told you could have everything you wanted in 3 years? But there's one condition. You have to be able to tell me what it is that you want right now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've thought about that a lot over the years, because it's like, okay, if I don't know what I want my life to look like in 3 years, it would be absolutely impossible for me to get there. And same with when it's a mentoring relationship or a personal relationship. It's like, what are we trying to do here? How can I help? How can we both make ourselves better? So I think, on the personal, my wife and I set goals of what do we want to do this year? Who do we want to have over? What trips do we want to go on? But it just keeps us aligned. Otherwise, we're both working and pulling ourselves different directions.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't even had a chance to mention this to you yet in our conversations, but I just heard something, I can't even remember where it was, about using the term target instead of using the word goal. Mm-hmm. Do you have a point of view on that?
I use them pretty interchangeably. Sometimes people have these hesitations around goals. So sometimes changing it up helps them do a similar thing without having the internal blocks around it.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe you found a similar thing.
Yeah, look, if the word goal is going to be a block, then use the word target. It's sort of that's sort of my feeling. Words definitely matter, terms definitely matter, but I think to me, maybe people think of the word target because it helps them hold their goal a little more loosely,
Mhm.
and let it be more fluid, and that can be really useful for people who have trouble with like setting something and then committing to that thing. On the other hand, it could also be detrimental if what you really need is to commit and keep it top of mind. So I think it could really go both ways. But I thought it was an
Mhm.
interesting question that I would
Yeah.
pose to you too. All right, so let's talk about what's a good goal. How do you define a good goal? What elements does it need to have in order to make it likely to drive transformation? Right? We don't set goals
Mhm.
just to set goals. We set goals because there's an outcome
Yeah.
that we're looking for.
Yeah. So for me, it all starts with your dreams. And I think like when our goals come from our logical part of the brain, like how am I going to accomplish this? But we need to first define what are our dreams for our life? Like we need to answer to the question, what do I want to do with my life? And for me, that comes from understanding what I dream about doing. And when I know what my dreams are, then my goals are just stepping stones towards that dream. But if you're like, I would define that's what a good goal is. It's actually moving me towards a dream. And because it's moving me towards a dream, the goals will have meaning and will have purpose. Versus if I don't have any dreams, my goals they don't have any meaning. It's like you can set a goal for anything, right? You could say, I'm going to write a pop up book about penguins and go work really hard to do that. But if it's not connected to something you deeply want to do with your life, it's not going to bring any fulfillment. It would be a waste of time. So yeah, I feel like without dreams, you can't have meaningful goals. You could still have goals, but they wouldn't be meaningful. And then if you don't have meaningful goals, the term I use is that you end up in survival mode, where you're
Mm.
constantly working hard to stay afloat. You're just simply trying to survive. Versus if they're connected to a dream, they have meaning because they're building something bigger than themselves, if you follow me with that logic. So like in the goal crazy planner, it starts with defining what do you dream of doing? What's a dream lifestyle that you're trying to create? And once you define what that is, then you can create the goals that are going to move you there in in that direction. I think even going back to like the personal relationships or the mentoring relationships, I feel like that's kind of the end question is like, well, what do you dream of doing with your life? When if somebody comes to me, if I'm going to somebody, I want to share with them, here's the dream. And then once we clarify that, then it's like, all right, what are the measurable goals to move me in the direction of that dream?
Yeah, backing into it's so important. What comes up for me is I'm always looking for, connections between this and the work that we do. And we'll often go in and we'll talk with mentors and mentees at the beginning of a mentoring relationship, and we get the mentees together. And there's sometimes a look of panic in their eyes when we tell them that they need to drive the learning and to set goals because they're like, I don't know what I want.
Mm,
The idea of crystallizing their learning or their relationship in terms of goals is a source of panic because they
yeah.
haven't taken that self-reflection. And I think your point about what do you dream about is that the self-reflection piece it is a necessary first step,
Yeah.
right?
And it's, I think there's a lot of people that find themselves in that problem of like, well, I don't know what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we're only taught how to set goals. And it's like our goals, again, they need a dream. They need something that they're aiming towards. And we need to strengthen the muscle of dreaming every day. And I think a lot of times when I'm doing these workshops, I'll ask people, how often do you let your mind just dream without limits? Just dream of the future you'd want. And
Mhm.
typically people tell me never or very rare. But if I ask the opposite question, like, how often do you worry without limits? It's like all the time, right? It's like, okay, what if we did take that
Mm.
same habit, but just tweak it a little bit and start dreaming about this beautiful life that you can have? Uh, so one of the things I do is I'm working with lots of entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, and the big question they have on their heart is, what type of business do I want to start? And it's well, first you need to figure out what type of life do you want? What do you want to do with your life? And once you clarify that, then you can come up with the business you want. But I feel like what has helped me and them discover that is I have them take 10 minutes every day to just dream. And it seems like a loopy activity, but like for me, I'll put my headphones on, I'll pace around in my basement, and I just dream for 10 minutes. And truthfully, I'd set an alarm to limit myself. Otherwise, I'll daydream for a really long time. But it's like I can get so clear on the life that I'm working towards. Where then when I show up to my office to work, I'm not just here to work and earn a paycheck. It's like I can directly see how these activities are connected to my dreams. And there's so much more meaning to what I'm doing and the goals that I'm setting. So maybe that was a
Yeah.
more.
No, that's really powerful. And I also know that a lot of the folks who are, some of the folks who are here live and many who are watching aren't in the entrepreneurial realm. But I think the
Mhm,
lesson from the entrepreneurial realm is so important for other organizations. One thing that entrepreneurs do well is they think about how when they're setting goals, they're setting goals in terms of the whole life, right?
mhm,
Not just the business, but how does the business fit into the life?
mhm,
And the translation in the organizational context is exactly the same thing. Is, when we think about dreaming and when we encourage our mentees to dream towards goals, encouraging them to do that in the sense of their whole life, what
mhm.
might be possible in the various roles that they have and the roles that they play, and then they can back into what they want to do in the
Yeah.
organizational context. But it's such a great lesson from the entrepreneurial community
Mhm.
to bring into the kind of established organizational context, whether it's
Yeah.
a university or elsewhere.
Yeah, because I think like when I'm working with them, it's like our business or our career, it shouldn't be the end. Our lifestyle should be the end, and our business or our career should be the means. So it's like, okay, I need the clarity on here's the end target, here's the lifestyle I want, and then how can I create or find a career that will be the means to create that for myself.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, so let's translate this into the mentoring context
Yeah, yeah.
a little bit. And in fact, just as a bridge to that, Lee has in the chat confirmed that the mentees in her program have a great resistance once they hear about goals. So what would you think is a mentor's role in helping a mentee identify and pursue their goals? What should they do? What should they not do?
Yeah. I I would start with the dreams. That sometimes I will say people get anxious around dreaming because it's like they're working a new set of muscles in their mind that they haven't.
Hmm.
But if you start with the dreams of, well, what do you dream of doing? Like make a list. When I'm running workshops, sometimes I force people to make a list of 101. It takes a while, but they can do
Hmm.
it. But otherwise, I aim for at least 20. And I'll have them make a list of what are 20 things you'd love to do with your life. They don't have to be realistic. These aren't things you necessarily have to go accomplish. It could be as unrealistic as wanting to own a house in every state to as realistic as getting your first one. Just take it out of your head and put it on paper. And then I think once they can define their dreams, then it's so much more encouraging to set goals towards them because they're working towards something that they're passionate about. Like when I find a dream or I help somebody find a dream that they're really passionate about, it lights a fire inside of them because it doesn't come from the logical part of their brain. It's you're coming from their heart of like this is something I've always wanted to do. And sometimes they're sharing it with me and admitting it to themselves for the first time. And you can just see this unlocking happen of like this is what I want to do. And it's like, okay, how can we set goals towards that? And I think you'll find it shifts something in them because otherwise, if the goals aren't connected to a dream, it's gonna feel heavy. Like when your boss gives you a goal, most of the time it feels really heavy, right? It's just more work. It's something I have to do versus when it's connected to this dream, it's gonna feel light. They're gonna have this natural energy to go through it, and the goals will be a helpful stepping stone to make it more tangible.
Mm, I love that. I love that. And
Yeah.
I wonder your thoughts around this, but it's not only when you think about goals, it's not only what you're going to accomplish, it's also how are you going to show up towards that? Who and how
Mhm.
do you need to be? And
Yeah.
what do you need to learn, to develop, to work on, to practice in order to be the person who has accomplished that thing?
Mhm. I agree with that. It's like you're not just defining the dream life. It's like, but who do I want to become next? Uh,
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah.
dream version of me? And then what'll align with that? Yeah.
Yeah. To make a bridge between the topic we were talking about just before that, like when a mentees will often say, like, I don't know what I want to accomplish. I don't know what the role is that I want. I don't know what the path is here. I'll often say to them, well, when you think towards the future, what kind of leader do you want to be?
Mm,
And where are you strong that you want to develop more, and where are you less strong that you want to develop more
Hmm.
in that area? And then that might help us back into the to what goals might be. What do you need to know? Who do you need to know? What do you need to know? How do you need to be? What do you need to
Hmm.
learn in order to get there? So,
That's good.
how do you think you could encourage that dreaming? I mean, is there, you want to stay grounded in action and realistic steps. So how do you make that bridge from the dream to the action?
Yeah. Uh, So I don't know. If I read about something similar, but I feel like I've used this analogy. I don't know if you read the book, The One Thing. Great book. Especially people had put in the chat they need help prioritizing things. Great book for that. But it gave this analogy that I'm going to use a little different, but I feel like it helped me with this is remember when you were a kid, you would line up dominoes and you'd click the one over and it'd all fall over if you did that as a kid. It's like, okay, I want to do something similar with my dreams. It's like I want the big domino to be here's the dream lifestyle that I want. Here's this big domino. Once I clarify that, it's like, all right, what if I want to dream my dream life like this? What do I need to do in the next 10 years to put me on the trajectory for that? There's my next domino. And it's like, okay, if I want a life like this in 10 years, what do I need my life to look like in 3 years? There's my next domino. And if I want a life like this in 3 years, what do I need to do this year? And you just keep breaking it down to ultimately what are the habits I need to be doing every single day that these habits are going to make me hit my monthly goals, my quarterly goals, right? And tip all the dominoes over to get to my dream lifestyle. So in the Goal Crazy Planner, we'll kind of walk you through that and you use it. We break it down into making, once you clarify your dreams, you set long-term goals, short-term goals, and you break it down to, I call it this habit card, but you basically make a scorecard for yourself of this is what my ideal day would look like right now. And you make 10 specific activities you would do throughout the day that would make it your ideal day. And every day you go through, so this is my scorecard right now, every day you go through this in your journal and you check off which of these activities you did. And the basic concept is your successful behaviors will lead to your successes, right? So once we clarify our goals, it's like, what are the successful behaviors I need to do every day to lead me towards those goals? And then I go through my scorecard every night to make sure I did them, or see how many of them at least I did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Let's talk about some mistakes. So, what mistakes do we make when we are setting goals, and how do you think mentors can help someone avoid them?
Hmm. Uh, Probably the big one that I think is that they're just not connected to a dream, but I feel like we've already ranted about that. Yeah, connecting for a dream and going to the mentorship. I think once you set the goal, the first step I encourage people to do is you need to find somebody who's already accomplished a goal similar and ask them how they did it. Because, there's that book out there, Who Not How, right? It's like, okay, you set the goal. Before you try and make a plan, you need to learn the plan from somebody else of how to accomplish it because otherwise you're probably not going to come up with the right plan or it's going to take way longer than it needs to. So I would make sure that it's connected to a dream of yours and then before you start trying to detail out a plan, find somebody who's already done it. I had a mentor of mine told me the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So whenever I want to accomplish something, I need to find someone who's already accomplished it and just ask them how they did it. And there's my straight line, right? And that should be the first step is I need to find my first line, my straight line to this goal from somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Um, so we use in our workshops often the SMART goal framework. We've been using it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
years, right? Specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. And more in recent years, when we say goals should be
Smart.
SMART,
Hmm.
people are like, yeah, yeah, I know, I know. And it starts to feel tired for people. So we've started to use Smarter, which is not my original concept. It comes from Michael Hyatt, and Full Focus, where the E and the R are exciting and risky. And what I love about that is in the mentoring context, like how great to be working on things that push you outside your comfort zone and get you excited. But I'm wondering what you think about the SMART framework, if you think it's helpful, if you think it can be adjusted. Share a little bit of your thinking around that,
Yeah, I
Jason.
think I have a similar point too. I mean, I like the E and the R that he has because I feel like a lot of times I think SMART goals, the concept is great. I think it's a great concept, but it doesn't sound fun, right? And
Yeah.
like I was forced to set smart goals in grade school from a teacher trying to help me read better. It just wasn't. There's not a lot of excitement behind the concept of smart goals. So I think it's phenomenal. I think adding the excitement piece in there and the risky piece, I think those are really good. Uh, I don't know if that fully answers the question. What was the question again?
Yeah, I guess I'm
What's my
wondering,
experience with
like,
them?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
wondering what guidance you give people when they say, Mike, I want to be a better leader, or I want to
Hmm.
be super wealthy, or
Yeah.
I want to start a business, right? Those are all amazing
Hmm.
ambitions, but how do you get that from there to action?
Yeah. Like if I was working with somebody, I might take them through the SMART goals framework, but I wouldn't tell them necessarily. I feel like that's just a turn off. All right, well, tell me what it is that you want to accomplish, and when do you want to accomplish that by? What's an action step you can take? Uh, yeah, to me, I feel like I've kind of I hit all the same points when I'm working with somebody, but I don't call them SMART goals. I
Yeah.
started on your dream, and then it's the specific realistic. I think it's great. But so the dreams are super like those can be unrealistic, but then your goals, I always try and break it down into a 90-day goal that is realistic
Mm.
because otherwise I'm not going to work towards it. Uh, it should still push my comfort zone. So then if I'm aiming for a realistic goal, but it's aiming towards a dream of mine, it's just a lot more fun. And I think if you start with smart goals without the dreams, it feels like work. And maybe that's too much based off of how I like to do it and I'm biased towards it, but it's like smart goals doesn't sound fun or exciting, but it's what do you dream of doing? All right, let's make a plan to make that happen. It's like, wow, that's all of a sudden it unlocks me to do something I never thought I could do.
Yeah, I love that. It brings the head and the heart to it. And Lee's made the point in the chat that in mentoring, it's important to develop goals in collaboration
Mm,
with the mentor, and that helps with the daunting feeling of smart. Yeah, absolutely, Lee. And that's the
yeah.
beauty of mentoring, right? Is, a mentor can help the mentee move from their dreams to their goals, and
Hmm.
can help them with that articulation as well. So it's got to be, one of the other things that's sort of one of the fundamental concepts of mentoring is that they have to be mutually defined goals so that both the mentor and the mentee continue to be
Hmm.
motivated in achieving them.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In your experience, when you switch to bring people up the smarter, do you feel like that adds enough freshness that people are excited to use that framework again?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to know what's in participants' minds, but I do
Yeah.
see that something kind of light up in them when they think, yeah, the beauty of a mentoring relationship is it's a place where I can experiment. It's a place where I can, share my wild
Hmm.
ambitions and my deep fears and achieve something in a way that doesn't make me vulnerable to my supervisor or isn't going to
Hmm.
be laughed at because you take the time for trust. So I think the exciting and the risky actually help people move out of the performance phase
Yeah.
into really the development phase, which is pretty important in a mentoring relationship. I'm curious, there's actually knowing some of the names of the folks who are here with us. I'm curious if any of you have anything else that you have used or that you recommend in the development of goals for mentors and mentees. Just feel free to share that in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll make sure you're unmuted to share.
Hmm. Because, yeah, I think the SMART goals for me, I feel like that framework works so good for the 90-day goals. But some
Mm-hmm.
of the other ones, I don't feel like I don't think it's a one size fits all. So when I'm working with somebody, we start with their dreams, but then their 1 year goal, they set a breakthrough goal where I want them to set a goal that's so big that right now they can't achieve it. Like this is a
Mm-hmm.
goal that's outside of their reach. The only way they're going to achieve it is if they force themselves to improve. It's kind of like that Tony Robbins quote. It's not about the goal; it's about becoming the person who can achieve the goal. It's like I want this goal to force a better version of you to break free. If you can already accomplish this 1 year goal, it's not a goal; it's a to do list item. Just get it done. And I feel like that works good for the 1 year. It like you get the exciting, the risky part, but then for the 90-day goal, I do like the more realistic. Okay, here's an action step or like a big project. I know I can get it done, but it's going to require work and it's going to require effort. Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
not a one size fits all.
Yeah, I like that a lot, Jason, because it does, as we were saying before, employ the head and the heart as
Hmm.
well. So um, that's great, really helpful. And the more short-term things, um, when you get to 90 days, you want to be thinking about action. You want to be thinking about what's one step forward to get there. I do think it's important to ask the question, how are you going to know when you've achieved what it is that you want to achieve? And whether that's a
Hmm.
percentage, whether that's a number, whether that's a feeling of feeling more confident, I'll
Hmm.
ask people to put a number around it. So, for example, sometimes it's hard to get specific about feeling of confidence, but you have a mentee who will say, I want to feel more confident. We'll take academia because I know there's some folks in the academic context who are here as well, right? I want to just feel more confident that I'm on the path towards being tenured or whatever.
Hmm.
So then I'll say, okay, let's just do a little bit of highly unscientific quantitative measurement here. Right
Hmm.
now, on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident do you feel?
Hmm.
2.
Hmm.
What's it going to take to get to a 3? What's it going to take to get to a 4? And
Hmm.
it's incremental growth that way. So there's a level of specificity without being overly quantitative that can still get people excited. And then the measurement at the end is I want to be at a 5. And then mentors and mentees can help
Hmm.
redo that calibration all on the way, as long as you're asking the same question and holding each
Yeah.
other accountable to where you were. So,
Yeah. I like that. And yeah, it goes to somebody put in the chat like it's a collaborative process, right? You're really helping them get the
mhm.
specificness of their SMART goal, right? But because it's a conversation, it doesn't feel like a schoolwork assignment. It's a
Yeah,
conversation.
absolutely. So if there are folks who are here who have ideas on how to how do they get that specific, how do they help mentors and mentees get that specificity, please do share that with us because it's helpful, I think,
Hmm.
for everybody here as well. um, if somebody's resistant, what advice, I guess, would you give to a mentor if the mentee is resistant to goal setting or has had negative experiences with it in the past?
Hmm. I feel like it would be a conversation with them. Uh, and I think maybe the like change from goal to target or starting with a dream, I think that can help give them a fresh perspective on it. Uh, I feel like I've run into people who they're very afraid of putting things in writing. And I know for that, most time I'll just have them do it anyways is kind of the solution, which isn't really a real solution. But if you look at the studies, it's so ridiculously leaning the one way that if you put your goals in writing, you're so much more likely to accomplish it. And sometimes I can even sneak them to do that by I'll send them like a form for our coaching call, like, I need you to answer these 3 questions beforehand. And at least they're putting it in writing for me. Uh, maybe they might not be doing it for themselves, but they're forcing that level of clarity. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I mean, it could be like a deep rabbit hole of like a limiting belief of, okay, because you wrote it down and you didn't accomplish it. You've now identified that you can't accomplish goals that you set. And, that's maybe a side conversation of how you could address that. I would probably start with the fresh perspective first or the more collaborative approach of let's just talk this through and I'll write them down. And at least now we have the goals.
Yeah, I
How
love
do
that.
you approach that? Can you share your
Yeah,
perspective?
I think similarly, what's standing out for me right now, Jason, is what you said about like what are the dreams, and I like to say my mantra for everything is that the main thing is to keep the main thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in mentoring, the main thing is the learning, is the goals. So a mentor's job to help a mentee is to continue to center on the main thing, to at each time say, all right, this is, tune into whether your mentee is driven by the head or the heart. And, whether it's what are the actions that you took or want to take, or is this getting you closer to your dream of whatever? I'll give you a good example. I have a
Mm-hmm.
coach of my own, not a mentor, but a coach. And I shared with him a while ago that my husband and I want in our retirement to spend a season in New York. New York City. We live now in Seattle, Washington. We've always loved Manhattan, and then we want to spend a season there. And he is always reminding me as I'm thinking about what am I going to do next with my business or who am I going to be talking to? Like, what are you doing to keep New York front and center? And,
Hmm.
you know, sometimes I'll lose steam. Sometimes I'll wonder, are we working towards that? But is always keeping the main thing, and remembering that that's something that we want to be doing. And it's so helpful to me to be like,
Hmm.
oh, yeah,
Hmm.
what's it going to take to get there? Who am I going to need to be talking to? How am I going to be needing to think about my own business if I
Yeah.
want to be spending a season there? So,
Hmm. That's
yeah.
helpful. Yeah. Yeah. Because I think sometimes, and it sounds like maybe this might be what the guy is doing. Like if I am working with somebody and I ask them, what do you commit to doing between now and next time we talk? That is a goal, right? Like if they're sharing it with me without me just asking, what's your goal for the next 30 days? It's like, all right, we're going to talk again next month. What do you commit to doing between now and then? Uh, Maybe that's similar to like reframe of rather than a goal, a commitment. And even though people, they might have this resistance around the word goal, most people like that accountability. I feel like most people
Mhm.
are waiting for somebody to show up and force this better version of them to start following through on the things they want. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing that's coming up for me is, you know, if there are some people who are kind of commitment phobic when it comes to goals, particularly in mentoring,
Mhm.
is for a mentor and a mentee to work together to say, you know what, let's set this goal and let's hold it as an experiment, and we'll continue to check in to see if it's the right goal. Because you know
Mhm.
this, sometimes you set a goal that feels like the right goal at the beginning, but it ends
Mhm.
up not being the right goal for whatever
Mhm.
reason. There's stuff you didn't know along the way. There's stuff that as you learn, as you grow, as you evolve, it's just the goal needs to be tweaked. And by taking off the pressure that it has to be the one goal in the course of a mentoring relationship that you are always working towards, is holding it a little bit loosely. Let's experiment.
Mhm.
Let's check in on it. Let's see if the goals are the right goals, if we need to be revising them. And that's a no fault conversation.
Mhm.
It's not a problem if you have to revise the goal. It's actually a beautiful thing because you're keeping the main thing the main thing.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. The experiment approach takes the pressure off it.
Yeah. So, one thing I think I mentioned to you when we last talked that I'm thinking about now is this idea of networks of mentoring, one-on-one mentoring pairs are incredibly powerful, incredibly important,
Mhm.
and are can be really transformative. I know you've experienced that in your own life, and I want to
Mhm.
invite you in a second to share about your own mentor as well. I think I missed that question, but we'll go back to it. And we also know that people thrive when they have multiple sources of support. So I'm wondering what your take is on building developmental networks and how goal setting might be able to help us do that more intentionally.
So, kind of as I was saying earlier, it's like once I have the goal, then that gives me clarity of who do I need to go find mentorship from, right? It's like, here's my goal, who's already accomplished something similar to this that I can simply ask them how they did it. So I think that helps a lot with the mentorship. Then when I share with that mentor what my goal is, they are now in alignment with me of, okay, I can give them specific strategies for that. I feel like there was a first part of that question. How do I find my mentors? Was that part?
Yeah, it was more about developmental networks. Like, so other than just
Oh yeah.
one-on-one mentors, what else should people be thinking about as they're forming relationships that help them achieve their goals?
Yeah. So my approach might not be completely as applicable to some people because I work for myself, but because I don't have coworkers or bosses that I can learn from, a lot of times I'll go to conferences that where whoever I'm trying to get in touch with, it's like, where do these people hang out? I'll look for conferences, I'll look for online communities, and I always want to get somebody on the phone with me or on a lunch meeting. And sometimes I'll even form my own groups. Like if I go to a conference and I meet 6 people that I really connect with, it's like, hey, let's all hop on a Zoom call in a month from now and just see how we've come since we've learned this information and how we're going to implement it. And all of us are mentoring, quote unquote, like each other, right? It's more of the kind of mastermind philosophy. But I like to have, once I have the goal and I'm looking for these experts to help me get there, I feel like I want at least 3 people to
Mhm.
get different perspectives. I feel like ideally I want more than that, but I feel like I need different data points of like, okay, here's like different strategies that have worked. And once I have enough of this data, I can clarify, here's the approach I'm going to take for it to go start. And it's the more you can have, the better. Because I think building that team, I think with any career, you're going to run into these unknown challenges all the time. And to have this team of people that I can call on and say, here's the challenge I'm stuck with, what would you do? That's such a valuable asset to have.
Yeah,
So I want to form it soon.
absolutely. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about one of your own best mentors. Tell us about that person and how goal setting showed up in that relationship.
Hmm. The first person that comes to mind. So my dad had a life coach growing up, and he had me start meeting with a life coach when I was maybe 15 or 16 years old. So at a really
Wow.
young age. So that guy, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly a mentor, but he was definitely a mentor to me. He definitely encouraged me to dream a lot, and I feel like it was this balance of encouraging me to dream big, but then always having these action items I was going to leave with every time I met with him. And I think one of the biggest roles of him and other mentors I've had is lots of times these people, they believe in me so much, unnecessarily, I don't know why, but they believe in me so much that I can then have more belief in myself to accomplish it. And it's probably because they've gone out and accomplished things themselves. So they're like, hey, look, if I was able to do it, you can definitely do this too. But I think that's another powerful part. And now I feel like I want to remember that when I'm in mentoring positions, like I want to show, if I believe somebody can do it, I want to like deliver that to them. I want to show them I have complete conviction that they can do this, so that if they need to, they can feed off of my own belief so that they can have more belief in themselves.
Mm, I love that. I love that. I want to shift just a little bit because, as many folks on this call know, a lot of the studies and the research now in mentoring is about well-being.
Mm.
And as you know, I'm a huge fan of the planner. But when you think about goal craziness, I'm wondering how you reconcile this idea of achievement
Hmm.
with mental wellness and sustainability.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. So when I had chosen that name, I guess I had the intention more of like I don't want it to be run around like a crazy person accomplishing goals. That's not like don't be so busy and obsessed with your goals that you're just a maniac. I think it's more of like the craziness to go after what you really want. I know for me when I was starting my business, everyone told me I was crazy. I feel like most of the entrepreneurs I interviewed during that phase when I was making this planner and now on my podcast, that word crazy just seems to come up all the time. It may be because it's in my title and now it's just more aware to me, but people told me I was crazy, or they had this crazy idea. And it's so often people will share with me what they really want to do with their life. And they're like, yeah, but it's a crazy idea, or people would think I'm crazy. And it's like, no, no, no. I want you to fully embrace that of
Mm,
that's okay if somebody it seems crazy because everyone else isn't doing that, but you want to. It's like that, then just lean into, yes, it's a crazy idea. And that's I think the crazy dreams are the funnest ones to accomplish compared to like, well, everyone does this and I can do this too. It's like, yeah, that doesn't unlock a better version of you. So I don't run around like a maniac or a crazy person accomplishing goals. I wanted more of the mindset of I'm willing to go after what I really want. And
yeah.
most of the time, it's your own self who's telling you that's a crazy idea. And you just have to embrace it. Of I know it's a crazy idea and I'm gonna do it anyways.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how I've interpreted it
Yeah.
because actually, like the concept of craziness was helpful to me in the respect of thinking about my goals, my own goals around wellness. Like
Mm.
maybe the crazy idea is to have more balance in my life. Maybe the crazy idea is to have a easier Fridays. Maybe the crazy idea is to get up in the morning and have a moment of meditation before. And that part of it is just as crazy as the achievement of write a book or
Mhm.
speak in this place or what have you. So I think that there's a
Yeah.
interdisciplinary nature to it.
Yeah,
Okay,
and yeah,
please
yeah.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
And probably part of like I err on I like to have these extreme things but like I took a 6 day silent retreat last year, like just silent retreat. I had a spiritual director, but and people were like, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Or I do ice baths in the morning, and I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm projecting this on other people, but I think people, they want to go do these things that are pushing the limits, and it's themselves and other people are like, no, most people don't do that, so therefore it's crazy. And it's like, for me, that's, I'm going to go after what I really want to do. Yeah, I realize it's, most people don't go take 6 days for silence once a year, but I'm going to do it, and it's completely changed my life. So sorry, that was
I love that. No,
a
I
little
love that.
rant.
I'm wondering if you've ever set a goal that changed you more than the outcome of the goal itself.
I feel like that's so many of my goals. I'm trying to think if I have like a specific situation that's uh yeah, I feel like almost all of them have. Probably the one that changed me the most was starting my own business.
Mhm.
It was way harder than I ever would have thought. uh, but it forced me to completely change who I was. It was like, okay, if I want to succeed in this, I have to become more disciplined. I have to get rid of these bad habits. I have to start going to bed on time. I've got to eat healthier so that I'm not tired all day. It, or to start seeking out mentors. Before that, my pride was probably, my ego was too high to go ask somebody for help. And it's like, nope, I gotta die to this version of myself so that I can go start getting the help I need. So, but I think almost all of them should, and I think a good goal should do that. If it's not going to force you to improve as a person, I would view it more as a to-do list item than a goal.
Mm, got it. Got it. Got it.
Yeah. What are
Um,
your thoughts on that? Can you? I feel like I'm sharing my thoughts, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts if we have time.
yeah. For me, the one goal that I had that changed me more than the outcome itself was when I left the practice of law at a large law firm.
Hmm.
I knew that I needed more balance in my life. I knew I needed to be more present for my kids.
Hmm.
And making that decision that I needed a change was more transformational for me than actually the change itself. Like knowing that I needed that shift for
Hmm.
me enabled, made the decision, made all the decisions that I made there easier. And regardless of where I went, it's not that the firm itself was bad. It just wasn't the life that I needed
Hmm.
at the time for myself. Like that, everything else that followed got
Hmm.
me closer to thinking about what does it mean to be a more present mother to my then very young
Yeah.
daughters.
Yeah.
So
And
sometimes
I
it's
bet,
yeah,
did you feel like that was a crazy decision to leave, or do you feel like others thought that was a crazy
nuts.
decision to?
I thought it was nuts.
Yeah.
I thought it was nuts.
Yeah.
I thought everybody else was going to think I was nuts. Um, Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. And I think like that's more what I'm going after with the name goal crazy, not the like run around like a maniac. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I know this is a wild idea, but this is on my heart and this is what I want to do.
Audacious, right? And
Yeah.
audacious and brave and courageous,
Hmm.
and all of those things. Okay. I want to share with folks how to get in touch with you. So let me do that
Yeah.
here. And you, speaking of crazy goals, have a book coming out. So tell us about
Do.
that.
Yeah, so my book is called Dream Driven, and it'll help somebody figure out what type of business they would want to start and then how to start it in the next year. And kind of going off of our conversation, really the first part of that book helps you answer the question, what do I want to do with my life? And once we can design that lifestyle, then we can create the business that would be the means to create it. So if it's something that's on your heart to start a business, check it out. If not, that's okay too. But my
Or if
book,
you know somebody.
yeah, or if you know somebody, then definitely recommend it. And that is going to be coming out this fall. I'm hoping for August. I'm still waiting on an official publish date from the publisher. But then my planner is really for anybody who's trying to get help structuring their goals, structuring their life around their goals, and then holding themselves accountable to take the actions they need to. So that one is definitely more suited for somebody who's not going down the entrepreneurial path.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Um, Before I ask our last question, I just want to point out our next conversation is going to be on July 15th with Patricia Bravo, talking about strategic connection and mentoring. Some of you might remember we had Patricia on a little over a year ago to talk about empathy in mentoring, and we're having her back to talk about strategic connection and mentoring. It is going to be amazing, as she is amazing, but really encourage everybody to join on the 15th and to spread the word about that as well. question for you is if you had one piece of advice to give to mentors about how to use goal setting to unlock potential in others, what would that be?
Encourage them to dream. I
Mm,
I feel like I just keep ranting about that, and maybe I'm too excited about it. But I would encourage them to dream. I think it'll change their life. I think if you start dreaming every single day, I tell people it gives you clarity on what you want to do, and it gives you motivation to go do it. Because sometimes you'll dream about something, and you'll dream about it for a few days, and the dream just kind of passes, or it's not as fun to dream about anymore. And it's like, okay, that wasn't truly a dream of mine. But then there's other ones that you can just dream about it again and again for a really long time, and it's like, okay, this is something I actually want to do, and it gives you the energy to go do it.
beautiful. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much for joining us today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me here. This has been fun, and I really respect what you guys are doing because getting mentors has been a huge asset to. I would never be here. I'm not smart enough for that. But other people have been smart enough to give me the advice to get to where I am in my life now.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, it's a pleasure to have you. I would argue you are smart enough because it's not about smarts. It's about stick-to-itiveness, right? And the
Yeah.
ability to dream and all of that. So Mandy has shared that she's going to take away your organizer. She loves it as a resource and a tool. Thank you so much. Karen has shared to be lofty with goals. It can be done in a short amount of time. It's an action step, not a goal.
Mm.
Christopher, the 10 minutes of dream time a day, so
Yep.
powerful. And Govind to bring aspirations to the forefront and develop a focused plan. So, Jason, this has been a great conversation. I know I have a lot of takeaways as well. Lee says unstructured dreaming is a takeaway that she
Hmm.
has as well. So thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
for what you do. I know you've already through what you have dreamed, you have added a lot to my own day every day as well. So really
Thanks.
appreciate your time and sharing of your wisdom as well.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks, everybody. See you on July 15th.